Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the whole magazine. We are live for the first time in the whole magazine's history. That's pretty crazy. We are here for the first ever, basically the inaugural first stream. Stop it. Very exciting stuff. I am, of course, joined by, you saw him on the intro, Nathan.
I'm trying not to freeze up. I'm really nervous.
Welcome, buddy. It's good to have you. Episode
Yeah.
58. We are here. We are ready to go.
You know,
Looks like we are
58's
live.
not a big number, but it's starting to get bigger to me. I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, if you think back on it, you rewind a bit. 58 episodes.
Like when we were in the middle of it out there, it just didn't really feel like it was going quickly. But looking at it now, it was weird how I hate growing older and wiser.
Yeah, because you get to learn more things, and that makes people angry. But
including me, I'm upset.
Folks, we are episode 58. We actually got some cool feedback and got some votes in on the subject matter of today's episode. If you didn't catch that, I would recommend going down into the description or our channel page and find out where you can find our link tree, where we have all of our important socials. Most importantly, check out the X and the Facebook.
Yeah, we don't really appreciate the anti-parasocial behavior. You should vote. You should vote on stuff.
And if you did vote, then you'll know that we actually submitted a little form, Google form, where people can vote on what they thought would be the most important things, of course, given us a specific list. Are going to be
it was a large list.
Look at
it was a large list of the things that we thought were the most important executive orders off of the White House website, which is actually like it's just a wonderful thing to look at now, and it's not too terribly organized. It's the nitpicking part of me sees a few things here and there, and I whinge a little bit. But
whinge, is that a technical term?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, I think it's a real word, isn't it? But
wince?
Yeah.
No.
Whinge.
You combined cringe and wince, my friend.
No, I'm gonna look it up real quick.
You do that because
whinge definition.
I don't know if that's
complain. So it's like I'm using.
Oh no, you're
like
right.
cringe.
Whinging. I say the boys are whinging all the time. No, you're right. Okay.
I'm using it as cringe because
you know what? Actually,
it's kind of loaded at this point. We use it too much.
Actually, I rather like that. Actually, it is a combination of. Yeah. But it's not a combination of, because if it means to complain,
I'll admit I'm using it improperly, but it's. I don't like using the word cringe so much for these little.
Well, you're an old person now. You have to whinge.
I mean, I've always complained. I am. It's funny how people miss my complaining. That's how good I was at it.
Well, yeah, because when things were going bad, it was always rely on Nathan to cheer you up because of his whinging. We learned a new word. Word of the day. Whole magazine word of the day.
We're the Bill O'Reilly factor now. The no spin zone. He's gonna get our ass.
But
yeah, so I looked at some of the ones I thought were like the meatiest or maybe the most interesting EOs, and then put it in a sheet, and then we had a few people actually look at it and vote on it, and we have a couple from those because we couldn't do all of them.
We can't do all of them. It's like there's over 100.
We could eventually. Well, okay, so they don't put all 100 on the website. They just put the ones that are good, with juicy titles. So the one where he's undoing a bunch of Joe Biden executive orders is one executive order on the webpage. I don't know if it is just one executive order, one signature.
Right, as far as like paperwork is concerned.
But again, Trump has been always very good. Him and his team have been very good at aesthetics and front facing towards the public. So I'm not complaining too much. I think this is pretty good. And as far as like where we were, it is. I was telling this to Walker earlier this afternoon in a call that here at my computer, I got the family living room TV right there, and I just kind of have it on mute. And if anything interesting happens, I unmute it. But I was struck by
A
today.
smooth criminal.
Oh yeah, Trump's the smooth criminal. That's right. Uh, Trump's people, his press secretary, any of the freaking rando people that have been approved by the Congress critters to do their jobs, like that Naomi girl. I can't remember her full name. She's not DHS. She's the she went on the ice raid.
Oy vey.
Oy vey.
Oy vey.
No, she was on talking to the people on Fox, and then a few hours later, Pete Hegseth did a impromptu interview from the Pentagon to this guy I don't know on Fox. He just got a new show a couple of days ago, and it was like you could tell they just organized it like an hour before, and I was just after that someone else came on. It was one of the other department heads, and I was just struck by wow, they are. Oh, it was Holman, or who's the bald guy?
Bruce Willis.
No, the Bruce Willis looking guy.
Barack Obama.
The border czar. What's his name?
Holman? Yeah, Holman.
Yeah, he came on after that, and it was like one after the other, And again, I'm not Trump's biggest fan. I've got plenty of critique.
I think that's pretty much the stance of the whole MAG, which people seem to. We have to address this because there are quite a few people. We have actually criticized Trump on the show.
Oh,
I've actually said
I do it the most.
Yeah, we have actually said that this was bad or this is good. If you're asking me for a specific example,
Yeah.
I don't know. We've been covering Trump for the past.
Well, I can say for sure that
4 years.
the COVID response and even like his stances on the Ukraine war have at times strayed away from common sense.
Well, I don't know. I think his stance on the Ukraine war, which we'll actually be discussing here shortly, is going to be great.
It could be. It has the potential to be better. No doubt. But
You're diving in already.
Yeah, I guess
it's easy to. But the whole stance on the whole magazine is we focus so heavily on discussion, right? It wouldn't be a normal episode if everyone agreed with me. It would be such a weird episode if everyone's like, yeah, Brandon, I actually 100% agree with you. I would think I would kill you all because you obviously are skinwalkers, and that's not correct or real.
Well, we would kill you,
or you would kill me and eat me first. Yeah. I mean, and that's the great part about the show.
I wouldn't worry about it.
Okay. That's the great part about the show is we actually are able to, and this is a relatively small panel right now. Usually we have
at least three or four
people total, And that's the great part about the show is we're actually able to have those discussions and show what a healthy debate can look like. And it's not necessarily the most scholastic of debates most of the time.
That's overrated, definitely.
Some people, scholastic as in people actually bringing forth information and sources.
No, I meant like and again, I like hoity-toity stuff, so don't take it the wrong way, but I think there is a limit to the usefulness of like high degree pedigree argumentation and scholastics.
Well, no, I don't think that's not what I was trying to mean. My only meaning for that is if you're debating somebody and you're not bringing up information and statistics that you've looked into, it's an argument. That's it. You're just arguing, which is fine. But the whole purpose of the whole magazine is to actually have a debate and discussion about these things because it's important. I think it's important, and obviously my friends here on the show also think it's important. Maybe at some point. Also, folks, if you are watching this live or if you're listening to it afterwards, you can catch the show live anywhere, wherever you get our stuff. We were on X, we were on Facebook, we were on, I almost said Twitter, even though I'm just repeating myself. Thanks, Elon. We're on YouTube. We're also on Rumble. If you are wanting to watch us anywhere on those things, feel free to join us there. Okay. Diving in to the real shenanigans. Okay. Largely Nathan here actually is the one that's compiled the cut sheet here. The Kamala Clause, protecting the meaning and value of American citizenship, which we'll actually be getting into later, but this is important here. And Nathan's going to talk about this a bit more. I'm about to share this with y'all so you guys can see what we're seeing. Why don't you go and explain this to us, Nathan?
Yeah. So one of the first like five that Trump signed on day one was saying there's not going to be this anchor baby nonsense. There will be no birthright citizenship as defined as such right now. Courts, obviously, we're going to, play games with this and say, you can't make this not happen. So it seems like this will wind its way up the courts to the Supreme Court. I have low expectations for the court at this point in time. They refuse to make any hard line decisions on the Second Amendment, and I don't trust them anymore. So, especially Amy, I just think she's gonna screw it up, man. Anyway. So this EO is making all the right people upset because it would target people like Harris, who have no business running the country. And it's not just me saying that, because I'm a bit of like what's the polite way of putting it? I'm kind of a chauvinist about it, but most Americans would agree with me. They didn't want her being president. But the thing is, it's sad that she was even in the running in the first place, right? The argument is, of course, that there's some kind of difference, right? That on one hand, it's unacceptable for two illegal aliens to come to the country, have a baby here, and now that baby's a citizen. The magic dirt has turned this person into an American magically, right? Obviously, it's absurd on the face of itself, but somehow it's a little different if the two parents in question are students on a visa, right? Somehow that makes it different. Two foreigners on student visas have a kid, and now that kid is a citizen. It's not that different. The difference is, they had some kind of legal status during the event. Doesn't matter. You're not citizens, right? It doesn't matter if we've given you permission to temporarily be here. It'd be no different if you were here on a work visa. But everyone knows that if you compare the work visas with people that are just working here illegally, under the table, they don't want to make that comparison because it's too close it's too much on the nose. It's too similar. And frankly, it's a bigger problem than student visas. Student visas should mostly be revoked anyway, because it's not doing us any good. At least not citizens.
On that note, it is interesting when we are looking at the United States immigration policy as a whole, right? Birthright citizenship is almost a uniquely American thing.
It's a uniquely American problem.
You don't really find that anywhere else, and if you do, it's onesies and twosies out of the hundreds, over 100 other countries.
Yeah,
you definitely don't find that stuff in Japan. You don't find that stuff in South Korea. You don't find that stuff in any notable country that you can really name. But the United States is apparently supposed to, have this thing which is contrary to what every other country believes is right. And it is true. It's an easy thing to abuse. And it is abused.
It's game. You said it the other episode. We were talking about Leah's video on the subject.
Yes.
It's gamified.
Check out the YouTube for the YouTube exclusive Emergency Reload series.
Yes, sir. You said it perfectly. People know what to do to take advantage of us, or our government who takes advantage of us. So we're kind of screwed by both parties here. You can't do this practically anywhere else that you'd want to, right? Can't do this in Switzerland, right? Mm-hmm. Even me, right, being in satellite communications, I would be very hard pressed to give the Swiss government a reason to give me a work visa, much less citizenship, right? There would be a huge amount of investing my time in living there permanently and working there permanently to even become remotely close to being not admissible, to be worth their time to consider an application.
Right.
It's not like there's no human right to be a Swiss citizen, right? There's no human right to being a Swedish citizen, right?
Yeah, that's the
But
biggest
somehow,
thing.
this birthright citizenship is treated like it's as sacred as the First or Second Amendments, even though it's not. It's a misunderstanding of a literal interpretation of the law. There is no because here's the problem. Everyone on the left, at least on the vanguard, right? But most of them, that's all they are now. They would all agree that America is institutionally racist. It's foundationally racist. However they want to phrase it, right? Well, if that's the case, and the founders, and then their kids and their kiddos and their kiddos, right, all the way down to this decision by the Supreme Court saying, well, yeah, Black people are obviously citizens. We can't just say they are not. That's definitely not, that's not chill, bro. There is no chance in hell that this institutionally racist country would have said, what we really mean is everyone's an American. They just don't know it yet. No way was that what it was meant.
There's also a reduction, really.
So even the liberals don't believe it. There's a
reductive attitude too of what being American means, which we'll obviously dive into later.
Right, it's an idea.
We do have this sort of predication stuff to get through before we dive into those EOs, because funnily enough, people, yeah, I know exactly who that is. I'm looking at it. So the main principle is that, and I know who that is too. And
is it Doc?
No, it's not Doc like we know, the racist Frenchman. It's so it is more or less.
Do I have to? I got to translate that. What is that shit?
I don't know. So it isn't so much in that. What they've done is they basically have reduced what being American means, right? Because America isn't actually a country. To them, it's an idea.
Yeah.
And that's, of course, wrong. But we have to cover, of course, what ICE has been up to in recent times. And they get busy.
Reporting on the ICE raids captured on video out in Boston. Let's show you that. Again, this is Bill Malugin with Fox News. It's exclusive.
That's his tie. It's too tight.
It's a frigid 5 degrees in the pre-dawn hours just outside of Boston, where this team of elite ICE officers is briefing on their targets for the day.
We're going to be targeting some extremely violent offenders today.
Within moments, the officers are on the move, with eyes on their first target.
We should really scare them. They should be bedazzled. Their police.
They quickly take him into custody. He's an MS-13 gang member wanted in El Salvador for aggravated murder. And he has an Interpol red notice out for his arrest.
We are targeting very violent threats to our community.
I'm not going back to Haiti.
One of those threats is this illegal alien from Haiti. ICE says he's a gang member with 17 criminal convictions in recent years.
17.
No, that's a rocket scientist, I've been told.
17.
Good authority.
For everything that he did for me, bro.
It's not a very
ICE
good
Boston quickly takes down its next targets, including this illegal alien from Brazil who has an Interpol red notice for armed robbery. This Salvadoran illegal alien charged locally with rape and released by a sanctuary jurisdiction.
Señor, ¿cómo se llama?
And this Dominican illegal alien charged with assault with a deadly weapon and heroin trafficking. Officers also arrested this Guatemalan MS-13 gang member facing gun charges. ICE says he was released from local custody just the day before. Their detainer request was ignored because of sanctuary policies. And in a sign of shifting priorities with the new Trump administration, this man, who was in the same apartment as the target, was also arrested after ICE determined he's also in the U.S. illegally. This is what ICE calls collateral.
So you guys got your main target just now, but you got somebody else. What just happened?
So our main target was released by a sanctuary jurisdiction, not honoring a detainer. That person.
I gotta say, I was watching the news earlier today about all these raids. Holman came on and was talking about it, and he didn't say it this way, but it occurred to me that this was a direct consequence of what's going on here. The funny part here is that we should be praising and thanking the sanctuary cities for being as retarded as they are, because anytime they go out into a sanctuary city, like in Chicago or Denver, right? The fact is they will sweep everybody, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a wide net. There's no support from the local police if there's at least no violent crime. They're making some kind of, so the irony here is the sanctuary cities are going to be cleaned out quicker on the nature of the fact that there was no local PD support.
So recent numbers. So we first started out at 1,000 illegal immigrant criminals a week. This past Sunday, they were at 1,000 in that day.
That's
so
good.
The numbers are ramping up.
That's good, because I remember seeing that the average during the Obama administration's 8 years was about 2,500.
And Nathan, what's interesting
we
as
needed
well,
to be 5,000 a day.
Yeah. What's interesting here too, granted there was only 5 or 6 that we saw. I didn't see any women or children.
Yeah, that's because they shot them behind the building. And then they forced the migrant parent that was surviving to bury them. And that's what the media doesn't want you to know. They were shot. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Guess what? No schools have been raided. Actually, that's something that's happening out here in Colorado right now. There's a bunch of, concerned citizens and the Karen types. They are freaking out. Anytime they see a black SUV in a column of 2 or 3, they're like, oh my God, I think there's an ICE raid, blah, 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 blah. And it has been flooding the social media networks that are, pro-migrant, crime. They are flooding their own channels with all that bullshit, and they're confusing themselves. So far they haven't seemingly stopped or kept a raid from being successful, right? Because the only one of note right now is the one that was up in, I think it was Aurora, at the nightclub. They got 60 of them in one sweep. So,
Hey man, what can I say? They're doing what's happening is happening, and it's funny too because even Obama was super. I mean, what he said is completely different than what he did, but. At any rate, this is kind of what we had voted for, what the people voted for, so we're getting it. And there is obviously a very big emphasis on the criminals in the country that are here illegally.
Yeah.
Before we move on to the next thing.
And I'm happy that the government is not backing down on the but they haven't done any crimes.
Or on this thing that infuriates me even more, which would infuriate every American. They're going after the criminals, which are a very big problem. These are people, repeat offenders. That guy was 17 convictions and then was just out walking around. Kind of a problem, if you ask me. A little bit crazy. An Interpol notice for armed robbery. You don't get that shit from taking toothpaste from Walgreens, folks. Okay. Lastly, the sheer idiotic, dumb, fake news concept of a sanctuary city is so anti-fucking American. It is unbelievable. This is just some RPG pirate cove that you can go to escape the Royal Navy. This is America, okay? You're in America. The law applies everywhere. And I'm so glad that we have a presidency who says, go fuck yourself.
I have to interrupt you one more time before we move on.
Don't worry, there'll probably be dozens more.
This is not on the cut sheet. I'm very sad. I'm almost actually glad I didn't because I forgot about it, but you're going to love this. Pete Hegseth, the SecDef, and Trump have pretty much announced separately, but it's the same thing, that there is a new detention center being refurbished and reopened up for the illegal aliens. Can you care to guess the name of the facility?
I couldn't care.
You know it well.
What is it?
Guantanamo Bay. They're going to house 30,000 people there. So now your options are go home, or while we send you home, you might stay a couple nights or forever, who knows, at Guantanamo Bay.
Right.
On
Because
us.
we might forget.
On us. We might forget about you in that stupid, dark, damp hole.
Oh,
who knows
man.
what's going to happen to
That's
you,
an
bro?
interesting development.
That's crazy,
That's
right?
powerful.
Yeah.
Lastly, before we get into the main piece, I want to shed some light. If you weren't paying attention or if you didn't see the inauguration address, which was 30 minutes, it's pretty modest by Trump standards. Usually you can go on for like 3 hours if you give him the chance. He had this to say, and I want you to pay attention. We're going to watch the whole thing through and through. It's only 2 minutes and 16 seconds. Pay attention.
It is my hope that our recent presidential election will be remembered as the greatest and most consequential election in the history of our country. As our victory showed, the entire nation is rapidly unifying behind our agenda with dramatic increases in support from virtually every element of our society, young and old, men and women, African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, urban, suburban, rural. And very importantly, we had a powerful win in all 7 swing states. And the popular vote won by a million.
He always brags at that.
He
It's
always
so
does.
funny.
To the Black and Hispanic communities, I want to thank you for the tremendous outpouring of love and trust that you have shown me with your vote. We set records, and I will not forget it. I've heard your voices in the campaign, and I look forward to working with you in the years to come. Today is Martin Luther King Day, and his honor, this will be a great honor, but in his honor, we will strive together to make his dream.
He's so honored.
We will make his dream come true.
There it is. We'll make his dream come true. People stand.
Thank you.
Huh.
Thank you.
That's neat.
National unity is now returning to America, and confidence.
Did I fall on my head? Did I fall on my head, folks? The message was, it's Martin Luther King Day. We're going to make his dream come true. Who in that room, by use of their own body, seemed to have a problem with that? I'll give you the answer. And I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, okay? It might be like, oh, well, those people are old and, it's one of those things here, these guys just sitting there doing nothing.
Well, it would make that argument, to be fair,
these guys.
National unity is now returning to America, and
And don't say, oh, they're old, okay? You can't expect them to stand up. Joe's old,
even if
he would fall down the stairs even though there's no stairs around. Guys, they stood for Israel hostages and hostages getting released, but they didn't stand for one of their patron saints.
Well, they know where their toast is buttered. But on the other hand, even if it was an age problem, because there were some people in the audience that didn't all come up, some of them are old, it's Washington is a retirement home. They just don't know
I'll tell you this, because
the thing is, go ahead.
What this is what was Trump saying? What was Trump saying? What was Martin Luther King's dream? You would not be judged based off of the color of your skin, but the content of your character. What does that sound like? A meritocracy, baby. What is one of the biggest hallmarks of the right? meritocracy. They don't like that. They like the DEI stuff. They like the completely undeserving, underqualified people getting appointed to places because of their race, because largely, statistically speaking, it goes against white people. That is just the facts, people. DEI does not help white people in much regard at all. It's just true. Look at universities. Affirmative action has destroyed university retention or admissions because now you have Asian students getting put on basically a different grade scale entirely in order to even have a chance of getting through with somebody with a lower score. DEI is not only anti-American, it's anti-MLK, and it's just not how a functioning society operates, okay? This isn't bio-Leninism, okay? This is what they would want it to be. They want it to be bio-Leninism. We're not going to let them.
I mean, they're getting what they want. Let's be honest.
They've gotten what they want for 4 years. Arguably, they got for even longer than that for the last 30, 40.
They've been chugging along at this. They've been chipping away for a good while. And here's the thing. If Trump and his people are not careful and they don't set the groundwork for the future, it's just going to come back, right? If, for instance, if Congress does not set in order new legislation to put teeth on some of these executive orders, they'll be undone the first chance that they can be by a liberal president, right? And let's be honest, if Jeb Bush were to become president, he's liberal enough that he would do that, right? So you're not in danger of just Democrats, Democratic tickets. You're in danger of most Republican tickets, actually. So the as much as what Trump is doing is definitely fun and great, it's good for TV, and it feels more lively and a little more positive than it used to. Just even a week and a half ago, it would be really bad on all of us to forget that there's more important work here to be done. And the unfortunate thing is, it's not for us to do; it's for them to do. They need, they need to do it. And I'm not saying he doesn't know this. I'm just hoping he does. I hope that J.D. Vance, if he turns out to not be the Republican shill I'm afraid he might be, I don't want him to be that way. I want to be wrong about that. I hope he's not that guy. But if he isn't that guy, I hope he has the foresight to see that he's going to end up being a part of, the conservative wing of the Republican Party leadership for a good while. It might even make him president. I mean, it would be hilarious if we could get Trump to run for a third term. There's legislation or an amendment being proposed for that. That's not happening, but that would be very funny. And I don't even vote. I don't even believe in the system anymore. But it's so fucking funny that he won, and I'm so glad that he won. And I'm not even his biggest fan, but he makes everybody mad.
It's a relief.
I love that.
It's a relief. And
frankly,
that's the thing. I didn't vote in the last election. I didn't vote either.
Yeah. And so the thing is, even if they can't make him run for a third time or legally allow him to, they could just switch, right? They could switch chairs. Vance could be the president and Trump could be the vice president. And then after Vance is done for 2 terms, Trump could still be the vice president forever until he's dead and dies of the
website for a cool article that was written by
the shadow term,
Hollowed Earth, the shadow term. Very good article, very good hypothetical situation.
It would almost be funny. You know what? Screw it. How about this? Let's do a synthesis of both ideas. Trump gets his 3rd term because they passed the amendment, and then he just becomes the infinity vice president.
The infinity vice president.
Powerful.
It's like the infinity gauntlet, but like orange.
It's like the eternal one.
The
eternal dawn. The eternal dawn. Oh man. That's perfect.
It sounds cursed.
I still think his White House code name, like for the Secret Service, I think his code name, his call sign should be Orange Emperor.
Pumpkin one.
No, Orange Emperor. It's got to be. This sounds so Chinese.
I don't know.
You know,
diving
Jade
into
Emperor,
the meat.
White Emperor.
You guys had the appetizers. You guys had the hors d'oeuvres. It's time for.
Nobody knows what that is.
I don't even know either. Hors d'oeuvres.
Hors d'oeuvre.
I think it's like Chinese or like. Is it French? Probably
Don't
French.
be racist.
I think it's French. The meat and potatoes. So the lovely audience before this recording session had voted for what they wanted the executive order coverage to be.
Out of the
list
orders,
that were submitted,
ones?
right? So we basically made a short list, and then the fine folks who are following us on the social medias, which you absolutely should, so you can get your voice heard and decide what we do. Democracy. Don't you love it when it works? We have coming up restoring freedom of speech and ending government censorship, return to in-person work, putting America first in international environmental agreements, withdrawing the United States from the World Health Organization, clarifying the military's role in protecting the territorial integrity of the United States, reevaluating and realigning the United States foreign aid to Ukraine. And then JFK and MLK and assassination declassification, and then ending radical and wasteful government DEI. Diving right into the top of the list, restoring freedom of speech and ending government censorship.
Yeah.
These are going to be quasi-rapid fire in a sort of way.
Yeah. You just want to do one after the other? I do one, you do one?
Yeah, for sure. Good.
Yeah.
You want to start with this one?
Yeah. So this one's pretty simple. It really is just the federal government re-emphasizing what should be completely self-evident and obvious to everybody. Has very little in the way of teeth for an EO, but Section 2 policy is the thing that matters, and it's just it's 4 bullet points. So I'll just read it verbatim because it's so short. Section 2 policy. It is the policy of the United States to A, secure the right of the American people to engage in constitutionally protected speech. B, ensure that no federal government officer, employee, or agent engages in or facilitates any conduct that would unconstitutionally abridge the free speech of any American citizen. C, ensure that no taxpayer resources are used to engage in or facilitate any conduct that would unconstitutionally abridge the free speech of any American citizen. And finally, D, identify and take appropriate action to correct past misconduct by the federal government related to censorship of protected speech. The only thing in here that actually is meaningful, I mean, it's all good. I'm glad someone's saying it, but the only thing that's meaningful here is the last one, that they're going to look real hard for past mistakes and or misconduct, like purposeful misconduct, and try to punish it. Try to it's a good start. A lot of these EOs are, they're not going to have legislative support unless it's already built in, which is what makes stuff like signing the Riley Act this afternoon really important. We need if democracy
you have
works,
to have, again, this is checks and balances. You have to have the legislative branch supporting the executive branch, even with executive orders, which in theory should be a bit easier given the majority that the Republican Party has. Moving into returning to in-person work. Now, don't be dismayed, folks. This is only applying to federal employees, because one of the biggest expenditures of any government agency is the massive bill that they receive for rent for their buildings. Rent, I'm including things like utilities. So just general cost of having a massive office building. Yeah, government employees don't really use a whole lot of that. On average, it's about, we covered this in a recent episode actually, but about 12% of the actual usable office space is actually used in a lot of these government agencies and their headquarters. It's a massive waste of money. So what we need to do is we need to have these people show face, go to work. You're getting paid by the people. The least you could do is put on some slacks, a button-up shirt, and actually go into the office. It's not that difficult. Everyone else has to do it. These people are different. These people aren't above anybody else. You know, we pay their taxes. We're paying for a building that's only 12% of it's getting used. It's time to get back to the office. Pack your lunch, boys. Get back to work.
Yeah, actually, my dad works for the federal government, and because he had Gulf War syndrome and a few other things, he didn't have to take the COVID shot. So they let him continue working from home for like the last 2 years. And he's hearing rumors that a lot of people in his office and around the area that work in the same industry as him are theoretically going to be sent to a gymnasium or a big warehouse to just sit and twiddle their thumbs. And he's like, this is perfect.
Sounds great.
He's so ready for the suffering. He's like,
sounds great.
He loves it.
I love that.
So next one on the docket is putting Americans first in international environmental agreements. So
I can go on about that.
This one is big. This one has a lot to it. However, the two most important ones to my eye is that it immediately is taking us out of the Paris Climate Accords. Cool.
Amazing.
And I would argue, more importantly, it's taking us out of anything that's been a part of the United Nations framework of Convention on Climate Change agreements. So I don't know. I could not tell you how many of the agreements the past administrations have put us in, I guess, in agreement with, UN parties in terms of this framework. But it's got to be greater than one. And frankly, I just don't like the way it sounds. Sorry, man. I don't have to be educated about it. I just don't like it. I just don't like it.
I'll dive into this more. This is actually amazing. Trump pulled us out of the Paris Accords initially the first term, which was great. The Paris Accords is a scammy BS globalist sort of group which dictates how a country can use its resources, what it can use as far as energy, sort of status, and sort of percentages need to be attained through green energy and XYZ. It's a massive money sink. And largely, the United States was not only footing the bill for all that R&D and development and basically greenifying the world's nations who are even a part of it. China, which remains the most massive polluter in the world compared next to India, isn't part of it.
Yeah.
They just pollute. They don't care.
Even if, and I know there's some people on the right that don't believe in the climate change
cloud monster.
Yeah, and that's fine. It's like, I'm not like going to lose sleep over it. I do want to point out, however, that if climate change is the big threat the liberals say it is, any agreement that does not bind India and China to it by force, hook up by crook, I don't care how, if it doesn't do that, it doesn't mean anything. Europe and America, while not perfect, we could definitely keep our environment cleaner. I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
We can be better stewards of our resources and our land. That's a very Christian way of looking at the world. I'm fine with that. I have no problem being a conservationist in most matters. There's some things, you just can't, and some things you shouldn't. However, generally speaking, I'm pretty amenable to it all. But but on a global scale, if you can't keep India and China to the letter of an agreement, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
You would have to, it's so hard to describe this. I haven't been in China, but I was in Korea, and I can tell you something about air quality.
What's more, actually, with this whole China thing on the subject of, pollution, that I believe the latest numbers were even if we were to do everything right and we were to stop pollution, everything like that, India and China would make up for it like nobody's business. There would be nothing stopping them. It would make basically a zero improvement. And the fact of the matter is, given how large the United States is, we still remain one of the greenest countries in the world. Yeah. Our CO2 emissions, comparatively to the size of our country, are incredibly low because we have all these regulations on oil refining, power plants, refineries, factories that all have to have scrubbers and filters on their exhaust systems to cut down on those emissions. So to act as though there is nothing that America is doing to thwart pollution. And I really do think, I think you had a story of your father or your relative calling back, or grandparent calling back and stating that it was global warming,
global cooling
at the
so
time.
When my grandmother was growing up, going through school, this was back in the duck and cover days, by the way, she remembers those. She was telling me that as a 16-year-old girl, they were telling her that at the same time that the atom bomb can drop at any moment, which was a true statement of fact. So, that was kind of traumatizing, I'm sure. At the same time that was a real present, lingering threat, she was being told by her educators, propagandized by cartoon films, that the world was going to end because it was going to freeze over. And that there was no stopping it. The world was just going to get cold again, and there's nothing we can do about it. It's just going to freeze over. The northern states are going to be a wasteland and too dangerous to live in, and all the migrants are going to come down into the southern states, and there's going to be a lot of civil unrest. She thought she would never, ever get married and have a family. I remember her telling me this. She was deathly afraid that she would never have a family because of this. Then when her kids go to school, so my mom, my aunt, and my uncle, when they were going through middle to high school, they were being told about this new global threat called global warming. And when I went through school, and I'm sure it's the same for you, we had something else called climate change.
Yeah.
So like, the
shills for this philosophy quickly figured out that they were being shown incorrect multiple times throughout history.
Yeah.
What is a great method for this thing? What is it used for? In California, they use it to pass more taxes and fees on you, so the government collect more money so they can continue to let their state burn to the ground every year.
Yeah, there's definitely a tinge of degrowth kind of element to it all at this point. I wouldn't say early on, I'm not so certain that's where it was coming from. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a infinite growth bro. I think that's cancerous, but the purposeful unwinding of European society is like absolutely disgusting and a cancer. It's a rot. It's not the same as saying, maybe we should use more plastics sparingly, right? Don't want to clog up our rivers like the Ganges, right? That would be the real shame, but, I digress. I'll bring us into the next one, the withdrawing the United States from the World Health Organization. Who the fuck are they? Who are they?
The World Health Organization, the international organization that lied to everybody about a pandemic, and I think they were like, hey, you should 6 feet of social distance and wear a cloth mask and everything's fine.
How about 6 feet away from 20% of your budget? Hiss on that. Just hiss on that. I hope Trump takes all of that cash and pisses on it. I don't even want it for the economy. I don't want it for the military. I want him to set it on fire in front of the WHO headquarters. Just to taunt them.
What's super, super powerful,
it's amazing,
about all of it,
they're so upset.
Everyone's very upset because it's this, because remember, these are the folks who are like, the experts, these people who I have appointed as the experts who are going to push things that I want. We knew how much BS it was 6 months in, maybe even less. We knew how much BS it was. We knew how BS the 6 feet of social distancing is. And we knew how BS the cloth masks were. We're talking about a virus. Look up how small viruses are.
I got one better for you. I know where you're going.
Also, first off, 6 feet. 6 feet?
Viruses don't travel more than 6 feet.
It gets tired.
Yeah.
It has to go sleepy.
I will.
Viruses get tired, folks. It can't go farther than 6 feet.
So I was in Korea when I saw the tweet from the San Diego Fire Department. There was a fire going on out there that year.
Oh, surprise.
Wow, crazy. And they were saying that.
Do you know how unhelpful it is to be like, yeah, there was a fire going on in California that year? It's like, okay, which one for the past 60?
So the tweet in question was from the department, and they were saying, for clarification to the citizens in the area, your N95 masks will not protect you from smoke inhalation. You will choke on the fucking smoke if you're wearing your mask and you think it's going to keep you safe, right? So ask yourself, how is that possible? Because some of these fucking freaks were taping their masks to their face. I remember seeing this in people's cars. I remember this. Even 2 years after the fact, people were still masking up in their cars.
That's the worst.
So I just want people to realize that some people were doing this with their masks. The fire department was saying that will help you. And here's why.
In fact,
imagine a chain link fence. Okay. Now, the mask is the chain link fence. The virus
is AOC's teeth.
Is a marble.
Oh.
And the smoke and carbon particles from the smoke are tennis balls. Okay. You can throw tennis balls through some chain link fence. I chose the wrong ball. Fucking sue me. Okay. Just
ping pong balls. There you go.
Suck it. Okay. Ping pong ball. Okay. Ping pong ball is bigger than the marble. Thank you. All right.
A marble's going to go through a chain link fence too.
Well, if the ping pong ball can, so can the marble.
Right.
Theoretically, you could make a chain link fence small enough to stop a marble. It would stop the smoke too.
The critical thinking part on these masked people.
Oh, yeah.
They're called maskers. Okay.
Maskets.
The maskets. Yeah. So I saw another video on social media regarding masks of this guy yelling at internet people like you do. And he was saying, that it was so effective. The M95s were so effective.
Were they?
As he's breathing and he was generating condensation on his glasses.
I saw a video. It could have been a repost. I saw a video of one of those dumb females doing a travel vlog, even though she's not pretty enough to follow on social media and she's not going anywhere exotic enough to follow on social media.
What is a Tacoma underpass?
Dude, listen, she went fucking nowhere.
Underpass. That's like in the underground.
She went nowhere. Listen, her whole video was, and it started as day in the life of a COVID conscious traveler. Wearing a mask in her apartment is how she started the video. And every interaction was like, oh, I got to wash my hands. Oh, I got to make sure my mask is on my face in the terminal. And there was a point where she's like, halfway through the flight, I finally took off my mask a little bit to have a snack. I did it at the time where most people were asleep or not eating. It's like, oh, wow, that's so clever. So you don't get, bacteria, germs. Oh, cool, lady. Fucking freak. I can't. I'll be honest. I'm going to be honest. Bringing up military service again, but one of the joys of my life was working on the gate, a detail I hated with all of my heart, when maskers would show up in their fucking car, all on their lonesome, and I'd have to tell them, take off your mask. Yeah, I see your face, buddy.
I need to identify you.
Yeah, I love doing it. And boy, the ladies hated it the most. They were the old ones too. They gave me some fucking stares.
They were. It was as if you would ask them if I could cough in your mouth.
There was a guy who taped his CAC card to a stick, and it was always him, always this. And one day I just, because we had the guns, we could scan the cards, and so one day the scanner ran out of battery and we didn't have any fresh ones. And so I had to take it off of his stick. And the thing is, it was not duct taped. It was masking tape taped to the stick. And so I had to take the card, like with my index finger and thumb, keep it in place. And then I had to unravel the tape. And he's like, what are you? And by the way, so it's this old guy in a Volvo, right? The old boxy Volvos. And he's got a mask and the face shield. And his eyes go, because you know how, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I'm like, I got to take your card off, man. And he's like, why? And I'm like, I need to see your ID. He's like, just scan it. It's like, I got to look at your ID, bud. And then I looked at it and I thought, I need you to take off your mask. And then I handed it back to him. I'm not wearing gloves, by the way. We're way past glove period. Yeah. It was just, fuck the WHO. Fuck all of that shit. I'm still pretty upset Trump was dumb enough to fall for any of it that time anyway, but I'll keep that for another day. Let's see. We did that one, and now what?
That's incredible, dude. Like, I always love that. That was a period of time, dude, in our recent history that we all lived through and we had to deal with equally.
I want to be honest. I don't mean to sound like one of those try-hard bro vets, and I don't mean to sound like I've been somewhere and done all that, because I only went to Korea. Let's be fucking real. But I'm going to tell you something. I don't feel like I ever made it home. It felt like I left. It felt like I left America, and then when I was supposed to come back, America changed way too much. It didn't feel the same. It still doesn't at times.
Sometimes.
I feel like a stranger in my own country at times. It's not a good feeling.
One of the things that the executive orders is going to do is it's going to clarify the military's role in protecting the territorial integrity of the United States. This can be tied into its philosophy of protecting United States borders, right? It's kind of important. Countries across the world over, actually, I think 98, or depending on how big of a percentage you want to factor in as the United States, think borders are important. Every other country thinks borders pretty important, except the United States left, which wants to guilt trip you into believing that, no, man, we shouldn't believe in walls. We shouldn't believe in borders.
Well, shit, even the Republicans, most of them don't even believe in it either.
Good. So this is basically saying the military should be able to go defend the borders of the United States when the state fails to.
Now, something I didn't mention about the last one, but similar to this one has teeth, because this is an internal realignment of executive branch like policy. So this doesn't require extra legislation, though that would sure be nice. And it can just happen. It's currently happening. There are several reservist, National Guard, and active duty military brigades that have been sending people down to the border. It's already happening. There's some Marines down there too. I don't know who else is out there, but some people we used to know are down there, which is kind of funny. Instead of going to NTC, you get to go to the other sandbox.
Spicy one next. Reevaluating and realigning the United States foreign aid. This is in regards to Ukraine. This, we've had many an episode actually just talking about this basically exclusively. At this stage in the game, okay, we're not going to belabor the point. We're already an hour deep, Also prepare, because with these formats, we're probably going to go for longer and longer episodes. And if you're along for the ride, then I really do appreciate you. We're going to take this time, however. Feel free to check out the episode, www.thewholemag.com, where you'll see some articles written by yours truly, as well as Nate here. Some great stuff, some really some good reads. I love them. A lot of fun. Check it out there. Also, make sure you check out our links. Check out the link tree for access to everything that you might want to care. The whole magazine, the whole magazine,
whole enchilada,
the whole magazine. Okay, all of the things that you would want.
That's the cooking show. That's our cooking show. The whole enchilada.
No.
No. No, it's good.
No,
It's
it's not.
good.
No,
Well,
it's not.
well, it's culturally appropriated, so now it's cool.
Oh my God, you're exhausting. Yeah, so reevaluating at this stage of the game, right? How long, Nathan, has the Ukraine been at the war with the Russia?
Too long, honestly. Like
I want a number.
You can argue that the Russians underperformed,
and
especially early.
Let's disclaimer here. Okay, we don't have the appropriate crowd here. All right, we're missing Isaac.
Yeah, without Walker, this is not a really good discussion because we mostly agree on this.
I think we agree in the wrong reasons. I'm of the opinion that it's proven it's not a waste of money. It got to be a waste of money really on the 30-year mark.
I'm going to be honest. This is not a winnable war for the Ukrainians.
It's not.
It never has been. Right. The thing you can say about them is that they've put up a good, professional, stiff defense. But at this point,
gave the United States some R&D with their weapon systems.
But the thing is, the Russians are gaining just as much, if not more. Right?
Yeah,
here's the difference, right?
The turns have tabled.
Because here's the thing. Well, it's not that the tables have turned, right?
No, the turns have tabled.
Yeah. But even if that's not really the case, right? It's the Russians stumbled to do something that they thought they could do, they couldn't. And then they immediately understood and reevaluated and said, okay, well, we're way in front of the line that we're actually capable of holding. We're moving back, right? The Surovikin line exists, even though part of the line they're defending was leaving behind stuff that is now, as far as the Russians are concerned, legally Russia. Unconstitutional to let go of Russian territory. Yet, Surovikin colonel convinced Putin, this ultra-nationalist leader, which is unusual for the modern, period we live in. He convinced him it's not feasible. We have to retreat from Russian territory. Not it's Ukrainian, but the Russians say it's theirs. We can't hold it. And he convinced Putin that, the operational, what's the word I'm looking for? The operational realities trump the political nightmare that this might cause at home. And Putin had to agree, had to be pragmatic about it. And so the defense of the line was, we'll call it 90% successful. The Ukrainians got a little bit somewhere in the Donbass, and, that was it. Yesterday was the day that the Russians retook everything that was taken from that line.
Right.
So today, that's not to say that. So there's two different things here, right? And I'm sorry to get a little deep into this. Throughout the last year and a half of the Russian advance westward, which has not stopped, by the way, they have taken, I think it's 6 times more land than the Ukrainians took during their summer counteroffensive last year. And even with the Kursk operation, it's still not a dent. The Russians still have taken more, and they've basically almost got the whole Kursk thing under control at this point. They're just slowly whittling them out. And now, as of yesterday, all of the gains they did make in the Donbass during their summer offensive in 22, I think it was 22, it's gone. So the problem is the Russians took the hit, they took the PR hit and said, we're going to build a defensible line, and we're just going to take the summer offensive on the chin, right? It's humiliating on one hand for the political leadership, and it's kind of, it feels wrong because we're used to big lines on maps moving, because the Second World War is all we know, right? Gulf War is all we know. But the Russians, they tried it. They thought they could do it. They can't. I suspect nobody can, because the technology has changed too much. That remains to be seen, but we'll see someday. God willing, it won't be a nuclear exchange. But the thing is,
now what does this EO actually change? It's reevaluating the foreign aid. It's difficult to say.
Everywhere.
It's everywhere.
Everybody.
But what's most topical at the moment is the support that is being given to Ukraine.
Yeah.
It is interesting to see what Trump is working on or can feasibly do as far as a off ramp for this conflict in Ukraine and with Ukraine and Russia.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I don't know. We don't know, obviously, because we haven't had much word on it.
Yeah.
It's something that's not getting really a lot of coverage right now. The big coverage right now is, of course, ICE and illegal immigration.
Practically speaking, the problem is that everyone's thinking about it all wrong, right? Everyone's saying that it has to be an amenable solution to both parties, but that's not the case. The Russians are winning. They are winning slowly, but they're winning. And
I'll have to take your word for it because I wouldn't know. I haven't taken a look at that.
The line of contact. You could look at deep state Ukraine right now, and you could
post something up right now.
Yeah,
we'll give a year comparison in post.
Well, no, even day by day, the line moves ever westward. It doesn't. It's not the whole map. It's not the whole line of contact, because the Russians have learned something. Once there's an obstacle in the way that's not worth fighting over, fight around it. Right? Because once the Ukrainians, because again, the Russians outnumber the Ukrainians, so they don't have to assault everything equally all of the time. They can just wait for the Ukrainians to bunch up on a defensible position that they can't lose. And the Russians say, well, now we know where they are. We're not going to fight you there. And it's not maneuver warfare. It's kind of like positional warfare. So they're just taking little sections of random fields to, anyway. So the thing is, as far as a solution, the only party here who needs to become realistic is Ukraine. I guess Washington by reverse proxy, because it's really our fucking fault. But Washington and Kiev, they really need to get their heads on straight and realize that this is not a winnable war. And making it a winnable war is unacceptable, because that would require nuclear confrontation. Not necessarily exchange, but confrontation of nuclear armed parties.
Right.
So that's a no-go. Absolutely fucking not. So what's the alternative? There is none. Right. The Russians are never going to give anything back.
Yeah.
They've lost too much blood. They've spent too much blood and effort for what they've got now. And not only that, they still have the momentum.
If I were arguing for this, of course, we'll see. We'll see in the coming months. We'll see what comes out of the White House. But here's going to be this. Here's going to be this.
Yeah.
It's going to be, hey, so Zelensky, buddy, old pal, buddy, listen. So I'm going to come to a sort of deal, right? I'm going to talk to Putin, old pal. Poo-poo is what I call him. And basically, it's going to be this deal, right, where you just stop. What's taken is taken. And if you say no, your funding's over. We're not giving you any more shit.
Yeah. The only issue is,
Russians, that could be simple as.
That's
and then
the
Zelensky
best.
knowing,
I think that's the best case. But the problem is, the Russians aren't going to do it because they don't see a reason to.
Yeah, that's the issue. If there was a stalemate.
Yeah.
Stalemate.
Yeah, well, you know what the new term the media has coined now? Frozen conflict. If it was a frozen conflict, Trump would be able to do this. However,
stalemate. I mean, I can't say it's not a difficult term because I just fucked it up.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay. But again, just one last point about it.
Here we are. Oh, you're finishing up with that?
Well, yeah, one last thing about it is that the only alternative to squeeze a little bit on Russia that the Washingtonites are kind of speaking about openly is sanctions. The thing we're already doing.
Yeah.
So good fucking luck with that. The only chance here is to force Kiev to just capitulate and say, all right, what are your real war aims? And maybe we can give it to you.
With sanctions, man, it's just
like
at this
likely.
point, it's like popping a party popper and then being surprised that there was confetti inside.
What a lot of people do not understand about the Russian economy is, it's smaller than America's. Almost everything's smaller than America. Yeah. But the thing is, it's not debt-based, right? The Russians could fund this war for the next 300 years and still only break even. They would be in the black. They'd be at zero money, right? They don't take They don't take out infinity loans. They don't hand it out, right? They're not a debt-based economy. It's just not how they roll, because nobody would give them that kind of money. during the 90s because it almost seemed like an insolvent state. It seemed too dangerous to invest in, so nobody did, right?
Yeah.
And there's other reasons. It's a socially conservative country in a lot of ways that America is not. Ways that a lot of Republicans would consider backwards, and that would be one of those things. Is that the banking is slightly different out there.
Just a brief interlude before we get into the last bit here. Use this time now to start submitting the questions you have. This is going to be a great feature for the live. If any of our viewers across the platforms have any questions whatsoever, feel free to comment them now, and we shall get to them. In an effort for Trump to kind of expose the deep state government, the declassification of the incidents revolving around MLK and JFK's assassinations, that needs to happen.
Oh, yeah.
That needs to happen, time meow. That should have not even been a thing that was covered up. It should be concerning to everyone that somebody can be murdered in the street and you hear nothing of it. And everything about it was classified. Why were those two assassinations classified to begin with?
Well, I'll tell you one thing.
That's odd.
I'll say this much. When it comes to the JFK thing, there's so many rumors, so many conspiracy theories, and I'm not saying that in like the derogatory sense, right? You can be tried for conspiracy, right? You can be convicted for stuff like that. It's turned into a slur at this point, but it's not how I mean it. There's a lot of conjecture and lots of good conjecture about possible guilty parties. A lot of it is pretty solid, and it would be nice to get a more reasonable grasp of the answer. And I don't think it's going to reveal enough. I think it'll be a good step. The one that really matters is going to be the MLK one, because from what little that we've learned of MLK and his activities, his proclivities, and his
communist ties,
his associations, and his personal writings, not enough conservatives understand what he really was and who he really was for. And I think that if these files are released, this might not be the kill shot on the meme that he is, but I think it would reopen the can of worms from their perspective. And, it would be nice to illuminate this to another band of right-wingers that otherwise still worship the man. I would very much like to see that.
Right.
As far as who was the third gentleman, the other Kennedy, who was it? Robert F. Kennedy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be honest. This one I don't know so much, and I don't care as much about because, one, it's not my family. B, I'm not a liberal. And C, I wasn't there at the time. I had a history teacher back in high school who was present for that assassination. He was there in the crowd. So he would talk about it.
That's crazy.
I still don't care. It's hard. I don't really see it. To me, it just reads as crazy kook with a revolver wanted to pop an important person. Oh, who's that over there?
Crazy
Kennedy.
person.
That's how I read the situation.
Crazy person with a revolver wanted to pop a crazy person.
Look,
how
man,
you would write
I'm not
that
saying
line.
I would do that. I would feel that way. I'm just saying some people be like that. And look, I'm not judging or anything. I just know it's illegal. That's it.
That's all.
That's all. Yeah. So it's like I'm not super excited about the Robert one. Maybe it might end up being the most interesting fucking thing ever. Turns out.
Oh, wow. He liked mint and chip ice cream.
Oh, Robert F. Kennedy was going to reveal the 14th flavor of ice cream. They had to kill him.
They had to stop him. Hershey's sent him. Last but not least, ending radical and wasteful government DEI.
Outstanding.
Amazing.
Very cool.
Amazing. And if you don't like it, you haven't been paying attention.
This is the only thing that makes me wish I was still in the Army, because I would have that evening gone to work in uniform and ripped all that shit down. And then during the duty day, I would have gone to the library and screeched by heart the executive order as I tore down the flag of the homosexuals, right? Like, I would have done it. I would have taken the piss all the way to the bank.
If you guys have not seen or heard, actually, you'll only be able to hear it, episode 52, which you can find anywhere that you get your podcast. We talked to some great people, Tom Burbage and Bruce, about the woke politics and DEI in the military. So this is a very topical here. That's great. That needs to stop. It takes the focus away from what the military should be. It takes the focus away from what people really need to be focusing on, not only in the military, but also in government agencies, as well as in companies in general. It takes away the focus. Instead of like having meetings on how you could be more effective as whatever the hell you're doing, you're getting instead meetings about how you need to be socially and emotionally sensitive to someone's dispositions about certain talking things and, words that might be No. Also, don't look at the experience of a candidate. You have to look at or trying to ascertain through a resume what the, ethnical background is for a candidate. That's what you need to do. And that's what DEI is. Getting rid of that in the government is something that I wish outlasts me. That shouldn't be a thing at all. DEI is anti-American. It is just disgusting. It is not good anywhere it's applied.
I mean, look, I'm gonna be honest, right? It's compelling stuff, right? I would I would love to just be hired because of my white privilege. Not gonna lie, it sounds easy, sounds great,
It sounds pretty
It hasn't
easy.
happened yet, right? It hasn't happened yet. I don't know what they're talking about. I missed every single closed door meeting of the White People Association with cigars. I've always missed
hiding
these.
in the junk mail? Are we supposed to have like white privilege coupons
I think
that we're supposed to like in the junk mail that I throw away all the time?
it must be mail forwarding is wrong.
Damn it.
I think they think I live in the Eagle's Nest in Germany, but I don't because I'm not a Nazi. So I don't know, dude. I just, if someone could reach out from the association,
I don't know if they have my
mail
mailing address wrong.
Yeah,
I'm not too sure.
They sure got my ass. Hey, can you do me a favor? Can you post the screenshot up on the screen?
Screenshot
Damn, you're
of
a
what?
lot better at that than I am.
Screenshot of what?
The Twitter thread. Just the first screenshot. I wanna show people something really interesting. I don't know. Is this the capstone of the night?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Do your mewing face again. That was wonderful. That's crazy. I can't do that. Maybe I need to lose weight. That's my problem.
I'm going to hear about that at work tomorrow. I'm going to hear about that at work.
I need you guys to bully me with those. I need Walker to do that. I need Wilson and Walker to do that.
Oh no! I'm going to
exercise goals.
Oh my God!
Powerful.
Oh Jesus! Okay, let me pull this up. I wasn't prepared. See,
No, it's all good. It's all good. Live show. Bullshit.
Live show. Live shenanigans. I'm not even gonna do a background on this thing. It's crazy.
Just real reindeer games.
Real raw. What? Careful there, Bubba. Down, boy.
A cadaver.
A cadaver. It was the style of the time.
You like that?
Yeah.
It's such a good clip. See, they quarters used to have pictures of bumblebees on them. You'd say 3 bumblebees for a quarter.
3 bumblebees for a quarter.
Or whatever. I don't. Yeah. So this is interesting. If anyone has ever wanted to shoot at coyotes, without being charged with a crime, your time might be here, because I'll just read this first without telling you who these two people are. If you don't know who Eric Prince is, you didn't have this dream as a child or as an adult or right now.
I don't know who that man is.
But if you know, you know. So, but Mike Lee, most people don't know this name, but I'll tell you in a moment. So this guy is suggesting that the government could issue letters of marque, very much like we used to for privateers on the high seas, just like the British and the French and the Spaniards used to do.
Spaniards.
Spaniards? I said Spaniards.
Spaniards.
I said Spaniards.
I don't think you did.
I think I did. So the idea would be, if you don't have a readily available navy or enough of a navy, you could just have private companies with their own boats go do your work for you, and you would just pay them in the loot that they collect from the enemy. The enemy could be anybody. It could be enemy merchants. It could be enemy navies. Doesn't matter. If they steal something from your enemy, they get a cut of it, and so do you. So you're doing a couple things at once. You're getting resources and you're giving resources, and your military capacity is increased. It's not a professional military capacity, but it's still effective to certain degrees. So, step back up.
You son of a bitch.
Motherfucker.
Oh, I'm going to talk for 5 minutes, and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
going to go back onto it after he's like, oh, maybe I should take this down.
So, if people don't know, 5 more minutes of lore dump, I promise. Just kidding. The U.S. could still do this. Every government could still do this, but we do have legal avenues for this. Mike Lee, up at the top there, that is a Utah Congress critter. Eric Prince is the man who founded Blackwater. So he's like the classic, original, OG American mercenary. He's still in the game. Triple Canopy and some other company merged. It's called it's some innocuous corporate name now. They're still running and they're still gunning. And it's very interesting that Mike Lee would even repost something like this, but he went on to put his own thread on Twitter, 11 posts deep, explaining all of it, right? Like, what is a letter of marque, who can get it, what it's for, what you can conceivably take as a cut, if you were. It's quite something. It's a decent thread.
A discussion for a future episode.
Absolutely.
Of hypotheticals. There'll probably be a more chill episode where we're talking about us being anti-pirates.
And otherwise, this would only be exciting on an academic level. But I was watching the TV this afternoon, and another Congress critter from Texas named Chip Roy brought this thread up on TV, on Fox News. So 2 Congress critters are talking about it, minimum.
Interesting.
The theoretical threshold of private citizens getting to the point where they can form a private contract with the government, essentially as mercenaries or privateers.
Right.
I don't know what the ROE would be. It could be pretty liberal, loosey-goosey. It could be really strict, right? You have to work with the law enforcement element. You have to stay on this side of the line. It could, frankly, the defensive power that this could bring out of nowhere is the amount of militias that would be willing to do this. LARPing for not fun, but for potential gain, absolutely would get some people out of their beds, or I don't know, off after they're 9 and 5, LARP in the prairie or the mesa with your buds with night vision goggles and thermals to shoot.
Yes, please.
Yes, please. Lord knows I would do it. Yeah. I mean, and here's the thing. If the government allowed these contractors, because that's how it would be framed, as contractors, to do cross-border raids, as long as you don't kill civilians or the Mexican government officials, the idea of
killing... you know how they would do that? The cartels would start wheeling women around
Oh yeah,
civilians around, and just hoping that it's like the camels that are outside of Kuwait on a shooting range.
But you know what's interesting about that? If they did do that, that's going to slow their mobility down. ICE would be able to catch them easier. So if the coyotes or
I don't think the bad guys are interested in carrying dead bodies. I think they just leave them.
They might, but
they will.
What I'm getting at is it will slow them down a bit. And here's the thing.
You have more bodies at the border defending it.
And here's the thing, right? Let's say they do have human shields that they'll just drop at a moment's notice. If they're drug runners just carrying women with them, in their pack just to, round out their numbers and make it harder to find who's who and to shield them from long distance fire, that's a bigger pack of heat signatures. You're going to find them a lot easier than just stealthy drug runners. There's no good answer, right? The same problem the Russians and the Ukrainians are having on the line of contact could very soon be a problem for the cartels. The same exact problem.
Can get one of those large format DJI drones that you need a license for because it's so feckin' big.
Yeah.
And just have a company size group, each with their own drone.
Yeah.
Doing patrols and just submitting GPS locations.
Yeah. I mean, theoretically, if, say, we were on our side of the border and we found some drug runners and we smoked them and we took their cocaine and their guns and we brought it to the nearest ICE facility at the wall and say, hey, here's our contract, our paperwork, our creds. Here's the loot that we captured. Obviously, we're not going home with a brick of cocaine. That's not happening. They might give us...
says you. It's in my nose.
But they might give you like a quarter of the street value and say, okay, out of the quarter street value, you're going to get...
Not happening.
You're going to get like this amount of takeaway. Or they'll say, thank you for giving us the drugs. Which of those guns do you want to keep? How much of the ammo do you want to keep? There's a cut, right? You can't take it all. The government gets a lot of it, but you do get to break even, possibly.
I don't think they'll give you anything, or as far as even asset value for, say, the drugs, Los Drogas.
I mean,
I think equipment, would be probably fair game. I think they would probably be like, yeah, what are we going to do with it?
It's going to be a real Tarkov server. Real Tarkov server.
Tarkov. No respawns, bitch. All right, guys.
The hardcore players go to the desert naked without a gun.
All right, thank you all. That's going to conclude this episode. Of course, we're just a little dip our toes in the water as far as the whole live stream game goes. If you're listening to this afterwards, hey, you can catch us live on our Twitch and YouTube. Just look up The Whole Magazine and you'll find us. We're there waiting for you. Streams, likely the regular stream schedule is going to be Saturdays, every Saturday at 8:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you want to catch us then, all right? And stay updated by following us on the social medias. That way, you will never miss an episode. Thank you, and as always, have a good one. Nathan, you gonna do the thing?
That's not for this show, is it?
I think it's... No, I don't think it is. It could be.
I'm going to keep it for...
Stop.